All right, everyone, we're here to talk about the Yeah We Know podcast.
Well, first off, I want to say belts are just changing hands left and right here.
Yeah, we know.
If you came through the WWE and wanted to be a big-time deal, you had to go through The Undertaker for, what, about 20 years, Jimmy?
Yeah, we know.
Jimmy, are they screaming RK Bro, or are they screaming Randy, Randy, Randy?
Yeah, we know.
It's Seth freaking Rollins. Show the man his respect.
The Yeah We Know podcast. Find it in this feed, part of the More You Knows podcasting network.
All right, we are here with Brett Wiscons, longtime friend of the show. He has been on a couple episodes with us talking about fun. I believe, Brett, your major league episode with Evan D. Altman is still one that I will get to tweet out the link to every year when baseball starts. So that's one of your Morgan appearances. That's probably legendary there. Do you remember that one fondly?
Oh yeah, definitely. Love Evan, and I actually just watched Major League again back in April this year. I try to watch it every year.
I was going to say, I don't doubt that in the least. I do not doubt that in the least, my friend.
DVD, baby. Still popping it in every now and again. It's still 1995 over here in Zionsville.
Well, other than just a couple of old friends who have known each other for years and years and can catch up about any number of things under the sun, we do have one thing we want to talk about. Your newest album, Late Bloomer, is going to be coming out for the people on the same day as this podcast drops. Brett, my first question for you here is a bit of a clarification. I'm a numbers nerd at times. I know there's a couple of EPs in there, so what number album do you consider this?
Are we counting EPs?
That's what I'm saying. I'm asking you. You're the artist. These are all yours. What do you count it as?
I would count it as, like my studio work, all inclusive. But I need to count how many there have been now that have been like properly released. That would be... the Jaybirds and the Owls never went to the studio, so I don't think we can count any of those.
I was gonna say, I don't know how many mass production orders were ever made for those EPs or in the early days.
Yeah, so let's see. I did a couple things with Great Scott. I did that a little too late. It was like the first full album we did, and that was probably 2003 or 4, and then we did an EP, and then I did a solo little EP, and then I did 2 EPs with John, so that's up to 5 for the Michaels, and then I did a full album with Mark Bryan from Hootie, 6, and now this one will be the full album with Tom. That'll be 7.
7 albums. Wow.
Yeah.
Do you consider yourself a crusty veteran at this point?
Definitely crusty. I can at least attest to that part of the equation. But yeah, I'm a veteran. They bring me out of the bullpen now and again to close the deal.
So how different is the time in the studio, say, when you're getting together this Late Bloomer album than versus, say, some of the first times you were getting together? Certainly this one's more of a solo affair, but even the studio time, is it similar, or is everything so much different between the album you just recorded now and the first one you were telling us about?
I barely remember any of that studio time with Great Scott, 20 years ago, but this took a long time, and there's just a lot of factors for that, for the new album. But, the main factor was we were in the middle of a global pandemic when we started writing the album. So there was a lot of uncertainty. There was a lot of difficulty just communicating, even because, everybody, the first few months of that lockdown, there was a lot of fear-mongering going on, and just other bigger fish to fry, I suppose, than to go record an album. So we delayed some things. We started writing, though, pretty quickly after we got funded for the record by our Kickstarter backers. So I would say by April, I started writing this album lyrically in January of 2020, and
wow, okay, so there's a lot of time and effort in on this one.
Oh yeah, and honestly, none of those songs I think even made the cut, or at least the song ideas. It wasn't until after the pandemic hit and things were locked down, and then I got a little more focused on some of the song writing I wanted to do and some of the themes I wanted to attack and some of the emotions I wanted to try to capture in the lyrics. And then I would send that over to Tom, just lyrics, no musical connection to it. Just, hey, here's some words, and this is what I'm kind of feeling, and I'm kind of thinking, I was kind of thinking like, hey, let's try and make this like a rocker, or let's do this like a B-side for Pearl Jam, or just to give Tom a little bit of a blueprint, and then Tom would take my words and like come up with just badass melodies and music and send it back, and then I would, try to edit out some words here and there. Just kind of, we wrote a lot like through email and text, and there's this app called Marco Polo. I don't know if you know what that is. It's a video app basically where you send videos back and forth of just you talking to each other, like one-on-one. Like I'll send a video of me talking to my phone, and it goes to Tom, he watches it, and then he sends one back talking to me through his phone, as opposed to just sending text messages. And but we did all that, and I think we did cut. I mean, it's just hard. I mean, he had a little girl at home. His wife was working in the ER during the height of the pandemic.
Wow.
It was just there was a lot of factors that played against us to get this done. And all the musicians we used were scattered around the country too, so it was just a big undertaking that Tom pretty much had to handle himself as the producer. He kind of spearheaded that whole operation.
It's one of those things that I guess, I don't want to say you forget about, right? But you sort of take the pandemic times kind of for granted because we just had to live through it and just what it was. But I could imagine that would make putting an album together completely different than the first time that you did. And I was interested in a couple of things that you said there about how you would just shoot off little things to your producer, Tom. And we'll get to that when we focus in a little bit more on Late Bloomer. But let's go back to the beginning a little bit for some of the folks out there. How old do you think you were? Do you have an answer to the question of when you knew, all right, I have to do music, I have to write songs, I have to play music for people, I have to perform? When do you think that day was? Do you have a great date, or is it just something that happened over time?
No, it was pretty much probably around, I don't know the exact day. I know the time period is when I was in that 14, 15-year-old age range, so that goes back a ways, as you know. But I was probably right around that age, pretty impressionable young man, and really just always enjoyed singing. Not always, I guess, but for the last 3 or 4 years before that, when I was 10, 11, whatever, I loved just singing along to U93 and the radio and cassettes, whatever, and I thought that was fun. I never really thought much more than that back then, but then when I was around that 14, 15 and Hootie and the Blowfish burst on the scene, I just kept thinking, man, this would be so fucking cool to sing songs and be like on tour and be in a band like that. And so then, I don't know, just kind of kept that in the back of my mind, and just, I don't know, I had a feeling that I wanted to do it from that, almost 30 years ago, I guess now, but that's really it. I just really had a tunnel vision for it once, because I listened to what was on the radio prior to Hootie, and a lot of it was pretty dark and a lot of grunge, which I liked some of that, obviously. I mean, I absolutely love Pearl Jam, love Soundgarden. Never got a ton into Nirvana, but I respect the hell out of them. Alice in Chains, they're dark as can be, man. And that was...
Yeah, Alice in Chains is way dark. Alice in Chains is way dark. I was doing a bit of a deep dive on them recently, and I was like, man.
They are dark, man. But some of their songs, I cover 2 of their songs still when I play solo acoustic, sometimes.
Oh, their talent's unmatched, Yeah. There's definite reasons for that darkness, but it's definitely there on the albums.
Man, isn't it? And that was what was dominating the airwaves, it seemed like, in 92, 93, 91, whatever. And then Hootie came along in 94, 95, and it was like, okay, hold my hand. Not like, Can't Find a Better Man, or, Dirt, and whatever the hell Alice in Chains were singing about, Black Hole. So all this darkness was getting washed away by the breezy, poppy Hootie and the Blowfish. And I like to think, you can hear it on my album, this one especially, that there is some darkness there, but there is hope within all these songs, I hope, for everybody listening, because there was, for me as a writer, there were some dark times we were going through, me personally and also the world collectively, but I didn't have to try that hard, but I always kept it in the forefront of my mind to make sure that there was hope coming out of these songs as opposed to just darkness, because nobody wants to hear that shit.
Now, I have the benefit of knowing you for quite a long time, but you're generally always kind of one of those guys who tends to lean a bit on the brighter side. You just never have been too down about any one thing, and I'd love to hear you say hope and hopeful there, because that was definitely a feel I got from a lot of songs on the new album. So you talk about us hearing Hootie back as 14, 15, all of that. Do you consider those early bands you played in? We talked about the Jaybirds, the Owls, all those guys. Do you consider those your first gigs, or do you consider something else a first gig, or do you consider the first time you actually got paid for one the first gig?
Oh no, I definitely consider the early days of the Owls, and we didn't play many gigs back in high school with the bands I was in, but there were a few gigs here and there, and I definitely can think back on those times, even just the jam sessions or the writing. We were writing our own songs. You were a part of that, Rod. Don't sell yourself short. We were writing our own songs, in 1996.
I'm still waiting for about the time the ruckus started to happen.
Yeah, dude. I that's where I got my start, and I just, I think I've gotten a little better as I've gone along, and I hope to continue that with the next record I put out down the road after we get, Late Bloomer out and it gets a life for a while.
So I know then you have college life down in the Indianapolis area. You start playing the Broad Ripple area quite a bit. So when did you first start being able to venture out of our little nest here and play some kind of out of state gigs? When do you remember that first happening for you?
Yeah, that was late in college. Started up with Great Scott in 2002 fall, and I was finishing up college at that point. And I don't think we played out of state that first year in 2002, but I know by 2003 we were starting to move around to St. Louis and Chicago, and even like that, out of city, Terre Haute. We played a lot in Terre Haute, I remember, in like 03, 04, 05 even. Some other
Indiana
spots.
Beach.
Yeah,
I remember a couple of Indiana Beach gigs fondly.
I don't think Indiana Beach happened until about 2006, but yeah, that was all that Great Scott years from 02 to 08. Is when I really started to tour, or at least travel for shows, but I didn't do it the best way. It was, I don't know how. I had a job, I guess, at that point, still a day job, so we didn't care as much about, how we made money or if we made money, especially if we made money. We didn't really care if we made money. We cared about just playing shows and having fun and meeting girls, but it's not the smartest way to do it. If you want to have a longevity, you got to figure out how to actually make a living doing it. So that took a while for that to happen, but
do you remember, if you don't mind me asking, let me dive a little deeper on that. Do you remember any one day where some inspiration or some event in your life happened where you decided, you know what, I got to do this differently. I got to leave the day job? Because I remember the day job fondly. You actually kind of liked it a little bit, right? 9 to 5 was never for you, but you certainly did kind of like your day job. So what was it? Do you remember a moment?
I do, actually. That one's pretty crystallized in my brain. I think it was January 2008. Oh, I know it was. And I was... had a couple sales calls in like upstate New York, and it was I think I was in Rochester, yeah. And all due respect to my people in Rochester, New York, but that's not where you want to be in January.
Certainly not. And you're saying that as a Northern Indiana person too,
right? We get snow and cold in Northern Indiana, but man, I think they got like 2 feet of snow when I was up there, and I'm just like, man, what am I doing? And, I was getting ready to turn 28. I still had the dreams of doing this thing for, as a career, making a living doing it. So I actually was up there for, like I said, for work, but I had purchased the Into the Wild soundtrack from the film. The Eddie Vedder did the soundtrack, and I was listening to that a lot.
Vedder again, Pearl Jam earlier, now Vedder solo.
But so with that album, I don't know if you've heard it. I assume you've heard it or seen the movie, know some of the songs. There is a lot.
I'm no Pearl Jam aficionado like my guy Ed Leon, but I dabble. I'm familiar.
So in that movie soundtrack that Eddie Vedder did, there's a lot of songs in there about seeking out your future and manifest destiny and going after things you want, and just all that stuff really seeped into me, and I was like, okay, I gotta make it happen. So came back from that trip, pretty much changed, but I knew I needed a little more time to get my ducks in a row, and then by end of April, by probably April 1st, I told my boss that this is going to be my last month or 2 weeks, whatever. And he had me finish the month of April, and then I was done. By May 1st, 2008, I was rolling with the Michaels. Yeah, we were playing all shitload of gigs at that point.
I do remember those days quite fondly, and I have seen your work ethic from that day till now. It is amazing. So things get to rolling for the Michaels, and then it becomes just Brett Wiscons. And so what's the biggest crowd then we started to hit as we moved along into the solo career? And is that your favorite gig, or is there another gig that stands out as one of your favorites?
Biggest crowd. I mean, I've sang the national anthem in front of 20,000 people.
Nice. Hey, that's still a lot of people you got to perform for. They know what song's coming, but you still got to perform for them.
Right. You got to deliver the mail, as they say, which you know a lot about. Those kind of opportunities are really fun. I'd have to say that cruise I did with Bon Jovi, not to just casually drop a name in there, but
no, that's a thing you had to work for, man. You had to get people to vote for you. You had to be part of a song contest. I mean, that was awesome work. I wondered if you picked that one out.
Yeah, that was a cool experience, really, more than anything. I mean, I made some serious fans on that cruise and people that have supported me over the years. I never did get to meet John Bon Jovi, but hopefully one of these days I will. But I would say that was a pretty pivotal turning point for me as far as my solo career and gaining fans and kind of getting me kick-started to want to do the Late Bloomer album, because that was April 2019, and then me and Tom wrote the song Late Bloomer in the summer of 2019, thinking it was just going to be a single. And then we put it out in February 2020, and we right before that we're like, man, we need to just do a fucking album called Late Bloomer because this song's great, and let's try and do that. And yeah, then it costs a lot of money to do that, but luckily I had help through the Kickstarter world, and a lot of people jumped on board to contribute and be a part of it. So I feel like, I don't want to get too spiritual, but I just feel like it's just destiny for this.
Oh no, don't worry. I'm gonna ask you to get a tad bit spiritual in the song sense here in just a minute. But okay. This is something that I always find on any musician friend of mine that I have. I always ask this question. Right? You've encountered numerous bar owners over your career, guys that you've had to play gigs for, guys that you've been Thursday nights, Friday nights, Saturdays, whatever. Then the time comes where you need to get paid by them. You've got to have a crazy bar owner story for me.
There was this bar in Chicago called Sylvie's in like downtown, like maybe Lincoln Park, called Sylvie's, and Great Scott played there twice, I believe. And Sylvie, I believe, is passed on now because it's been 15, 16 years since we played there. But Sylvie was she came from Europe somewhere. I want to say like Eastern Europe, some sort of, she came over as an immigrant, and just very hard-nosed and older. Even when we played there, just older, like no bullshit. She gave
She's
us,
been
like,
at this a long time. She's
been at this a long time. We didn't get paid to play there. Nobody did, really. They gave us like these wooden tokens, like looked like quarters but were wooden, that said Sylvie's on it, and like on the one side and on the other side said free drink or something. That's basically how we got paid. But we showed up on time and everything, but she just, like, her immediate response to basically, I guess, anybody, or maybe just musicians, or maybe musicians from Indiana. I don't know exactly if we were on her shit list or if that's just how she talked to everybody. But I mean, she basically just called us. I don't know how many kids are going to be listening to this show, but I mean,
we got the rating. You let it fly. People are ready for it.
Yeah, she's just like, you fuckers, just like out of the gate,
just from jump, huh?
Yeah, from the gate. Just like, you fuckers go set up over there. But it wasn't necessarily being mean and nasty, but it was just how she
was as
talked.
endearing as that term can be, I guess, is what I'm picturing in my head right now. From an older Eastern European, so we're talking like Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia,
somewhere
Estonia.
in that, I will say that very confidently. She was from somewhere over there.
Gotcha.
And she just, maybe that was like her favorite word. Maybe it was some sort of term of endearment, but she called us fuckers all night.
It's quite possible. Maybe that's one of the first words she heard when she came over here, and it just stuck. You know what I mean? It's very possible. We want to try to give her as big a break as we can. We're just talking about characters here. We're not judging. We're just talking about characters.
Right, and I love good characters, man. That's all I'm looking for in life, is people that are memorable and are not vanilla wafers, you know. I love characters. So she was a character. We still talk. I just saw Duff and Jason Kuykendall over the weekend. We played a pop-up 1-hour set at this house concert in Broad Ripple, and we were still reminiscing about Sylvie.
I also wonder, along those same lines, real quick, is there certain, you've played for so many different crowds, is there any certain crowd that comes to mind, one that got a little angry, or one that you were like, oh my god, these people are lit on fire for me? Is there any certain crowd that you always remember a town?
When you say lit on fire for me, like in a good way, or like,
yeah, man, I mean, like the crowd was just hot, you know. I mean, like, you've seen a bunch of bars, right? I mean, you know, let's not mince words here. You've been in a bunch of bars where people couldn't care less if you were on stage or not, right? Do you ever remember one where people were like, oh my, look at these people?
Right. Usually the more alcohol that was involved, the more they got into it, and the more like we were like the greatest thing ever to them. I remember some really fun band shows at Indiana Beach, as you mentioned before. Like,
those were good times.
Crazy good times there, after parties, and we were kind of treated pretty well up there. Broad Ripple, we had a lot of fire nights in Broad Ripple at Peppers.
I was gonna say CT Peppers, baby. I remember being there many times.
Yeah, those were. But you know, nowadays. Yeah, I mostly play solo, and I'm doing more of either an opening set for Billy Bob Thornton or Sister Hazel or whoever it might be, and I'm doing shorter bursts, you know, and I'm doing house concerts, and I can still get people fired up when I need to, but.
Oh yeah, the way Late Bloomer opens, you're letting people know you can still rock when you need to.
Exactly. Yeah, I came from that. I mean, I really did. I mean, a lot of people know me now as just the solo acoustic guy or whatever, or the Tip Me and Tequila guy. But, and a lot of people from, high school and college know that I really was more of a rocker than a balladeer at first, Well,
let me ask you this then, because that hones in on something else. So then what's harder? Is the writing and the creating songs harder, or is it harder handling all of the business, right? Since you've decided that this is your career and all the things that you talk about, the right way to do it and wronger. I'm not asking you to reveal secrets here, but what do you think is actually harder?
For me, it's harder. It kind of goes and comes and goes, but if I had to pick one, I would say it's still harder for me to create meaningful art. I can write a lot, and I do. But it's hard to harness those, because songs and, the stories I write just a lot of times literally come out of nowhere, just out of the ether. And I mean, they come a little more frequently sometimes now, but it's hard to just conjure stuff up sometimes, especially
What's a wild place you remember a song hitting you where you're like, oh my God, I got to get this down?
I was in Asheville, North Carolina once at a gas station filling up, and a song hit me there. I put it out a few years ago, 5 or 6 years ago now, a single called Red.
Well, come here, darling. You know I'm howling. You are my full moon red.
So that's out there, but yeah, that one kind of hit me kind of crazily like that. But you know, for the album, this new album, I wrote a lot, and just the more you write, the more you're gonna write crap, yes, but the more then as you're writing the crap, the good stuff will appear as well. So I don't believe in writer's block, but I do think it's hard to write really good songs. I believe in that, but I also think the more you do something, the better you're going to get at it. So I just apply that to how I write. I just write a lot, and a lot of stuff people will never hear or see.
So you'd say that would you say then that you write almost every day? Would you say maybe that might be one of your secrets, is that you're trying to write something every day, or is that saying a little too much?
No, I do write every single day, but I don't always write song ideas, but I write every day. I'll say that.
Okay, now you mentioned that Late Bloomer was a single that you wrote, right? And
Yes.
then you said that Late Bloomer then kind of was like, hey, let's do this for an album. So I'd like to think maybe the inspiration for Late Bloomer was kind of the inspiration for the album. Is that safe to say?
Yeah.
What was the inspiration for Late Bloomer then? Do you have a specific time you remember when that song came about?
I just had it was after the cruise in 2019. Sometimes as an artist, you want to keep the mystique and all that bullshit, but man, I don't know.
I understand.
And sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't want to do that. I'd rather be, I want to be accessible, but I do want to have a little mystique, I suppose. But that
Try to
song,
leave them open-ended, right? So you can answer as much or as little as you want to.
Yeah, I had an idea for that song again in like April, May of 2019. I actually don't think I had any words. I just had the concept of a character that is and always has been kind of a late bloomer. And I mean, you know a lot about my personal life. We're not going to get into a lot of that stuff, but
it is a character, because you know what's funny is man, we're so in tune. It's like we've known each other since elementary school. But I did write down on Late Bloomer, I said, is Late Bloomer more autobiographical, or do you think it's more a character you created just based around some life experience?
Well, I straddle that line of fact and fiction, and I do that, I think pretty well.
Listen, this is the podcast network for it. We talk wrestling here. I mean, if they don't straddle the line between fact and fiction and wrestling, I don't know what does. So you're on the right podcast network for that, my friend.
Exactly. So rather than write an autobiographical song 100%, I pull certain things from my life that may or may not be autobiographical, and then I put it in songs, and that way I can kind of best of both worlds, really. I've lived some of these experiences, but in a way I can fictionalize them and dramatize them. Is that the word? Dramatize them?
There you go. I'd say dramatize.
I can dramatize them to make it more universal. So it's not just my story or, Joey's story in the book, in the character in the song. It's maybe Rod Morgan sees a little bit of himself in this song or in this character as a late to the game podcast host, but you always
I think you hit something right there, my friend. I think that song is absolutely hopeful. I think that what you did by creating a character, right, is that character is authentic because you're someone who could be interpreted as a late bloomer, right? But what I did when I heard this song is I said to myself, all right, Rod, you got to focus in on this podcast thing, right? Now, I'm not going to make it about me. We're here to talk about you. But you inspired me to say, all right, I got to hone in a little bit more on promotion. I got to hone in a little bit more on really concentrating on the product that I'm putting out. It can't just be I'm cutting my microphone with my buddies. I have to craft this into a show that other people who don't know me might someday want to listen to. And I got that inspiration from Late Bloomer. But you also get an absolutely phenomenal hook, and you drop cast aspersions in a song. My friend, kudos to you.
Yeah, man, you're welcome. You don't hear cast
me. I love those
aspersions
big words.
in modern pop rock music. You really don't. And I wanted.
Well, here's what we'll do then. Let's focus in a little bit more on the album. As we said, this is coming out on July the 13th. Late Bloomer is going to be available for everybody, everywhere. It's song number 3 on the album, but song number 1 we hinted at a little bit earlier as well. I think it's probably my favorite song, Vertical City. Great rock opener, some piano on there.
Sounding the bell can be such a pity. Trying to make it in a vertical city. Pull the plug and cut her on now, Willie. The depths of despair have become so silly.
Hardworking man vibes there, a little bit of struggle, right? But still hopeful. Am I onto something with Vertical City?
Yeah, you are. And that song was written very much so in the early stages of lockdown, and there's some anxiety.
That's where Vertical comes from, for sure. I get that then.
There's a lot of anxiety in there. There's a lot of uncertainty, but there's also like some badass hope too. That's basically like, I'm gonna figure this out. You know, whoever I am in the song, you know, whoever that person is gonna figure out how to navigate this. And we really did rock the socks off on that first track.
You certainly do. I mean, it's a great opener, and like you said, there's a little bit of anxiety and a little bit of darkness there, as you just stated, but it's ultimately hopeful, just like most of your music is. And then we go into Walk Tall, which I thought was a nice little step down from Vertical City, but ultimately, again, Triumph, words of encouragement there.
Under the weight of this landslide, you will find your strength somehow. You've been searching for something true.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I liked how that song turned out, man. That was probably me at my most, I would say probably at my most close to my breaking point. Because that again was written during the lockdown, and I was just like, my career had disappeared overnight. And so it was more of a pep rally song for myself than.
It feels that way, but it feels real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like with the musical vibe you catch in it, it keeps it in reality. But there's definitely that kind of pep talk feel that can come across hokey sometimes, and I don't think it does in that song. I enjoyed it.
No, thank you. Yeah, that was what we were going for, and I think we nailed it.
So you, I know, have said in some of your promotion and stuff out there, and I know there's some vinyl opportunities even where people can get this album on vinyl, and you can talk a little bit more about that if you want to. I don't know if I want to go into Deja Vu and Collection of Hearts too much, because I think we could be, the mystique, and there could be a little bit of danger there. But let's just say those are let's just say that those are a little bit of the eternal spring of love lost seems to be right there. And then did you have an intention of bluesy when you did Collection of Hearts? Because I got a definite bluesy vibe on that song.
She was the one who could reel him in and calm his childish fears. Promises pledged in advance, he'd like to whisper in her ears.
That was, you know what, where I got that initial song idea is one of our mutual friends from Plymouth, Indiana, and that's Andrew Clark.
I saw the thing on the album, so that was Clarky, huh?
Clark gave me that idea during lockdown, I think, as well, back in like April, May 2020. I was really writing, that whole album was basically written between March 30th and May 1st, or May, and no, I guess I wrote, into August, I guess we wrote basically from April to August, we wrote all the lyrics and the songs, basically, and the demos.
You can tell that there's time crafted around all of them. The way that they go into bridge and hooks, and that you can tell there's time crafted in all of them. It's definitely visible.
No, I agree, and I appreciate it. But Clark, yeah, he threw out the idea of a guy, girl, whatever, but more so a guy. It was easier to write from a guy's perspective, I guess, but of a guy that was, had girlfriends, wives, whatever, dated, but all he really had, nothing really worked out. All he had to show for it was just a collection of broken hearts. But we didn't call it we wanted to call it a collection of hearts. It just had a better ring than broken hearts. But so I thought, yeah, I think I could write that song. Once he gave, I didn't have the idea. I got to give him credit for having the idea, but me and Tom wrote the song, obviously. But Tom, once I gave him lyrics for it, he thought, this could be cool with like a Depeche Mode kind of vibe. It was his idea to do
I get that a little bit now that you mentioned that.
Kind of vibe for that Collection of Hearts song, and then he's got that buddy in Nashville that did the string arrangement, which gave it a whole nother level. And then we had the choir. I mean, that song
was a choir. That was going to be my last question about that song. If it was a choir, if it was just a couple of singers, it did sound like a choir though, and it really added.
It did, man. That song's probably my favorite song on the album, to be quite honest. And it's mostly because of the production of it. And I mean, it's a very well done song, and I didn't necessarily live it autobiographically like 100%, but there's some of me in there too, and there's.
Oh, you've been a touring musician. You alluded to it earlier. Some good times. Come on, right. We can all make some inferences here.
Yeah, but the song itself, I think, is just very powerful, and it's all about, again, like, yeah, you might have fucked stuff up in the past, but your past is not your future. It doesn't have to be. You can totally change your trajectory, even if your past is something you're not proud of. Yeah.
That is such an important line. That's one of those things that, like, you can transfer that to so many different circumstances in life as well, right? It doesn't matter what type of mistake you made. It's still a mistake that you can get by.
Won't you knock upon my door? Play the game, remember when and
I'll touch on Deja Vu real quick because you mentioned that you ultimately your roots aren't an acoustic balladeer, but you do quite a decent job with it on Deja Vu, and I really love the whole framing of letters in a drawer. Tell me how you've been. So basically, you can just pull those letters out and reminisce the way you want to at any time. I kind of like that as a trick in that song.
Yeah, thank you. And it has a different meaning for a few different people that I've talked to actually that have heard the song. And there's a woman that a friend of mine down in Florida that I met on the cruise. Real nice lady. Older woman. She was party animal on the cruise, but her husband, they'd been married like 50 years, and he passed away, and she told me that even though the song to me is not necessarily about that, she's like, when I hear that song, I think of my Frank. And so I'm happy for people that can connect to songs that maybe I didn't write them, or Tom and I didn't write them with a specific, or we had a specific intention about the song, but then somebody else hears it and they kind of make
But I think that comes with songwriting growth, though, no? Right? I mean, I think that comes with songwriting growth, always kind of knowing that you want to have it fit, it wants to go out to people, right? Like the other thing that I thought that was cool about this album, and I didn't take it as a way of you like turning your back, right? But a lot of your earlier stuff, I think you can feel a lot more Indiana in it. And this, I think it's there, right, for those of us that know, but I think this is the music that can play to anybody in any state, and I think that comes across.
Totally. Yeah, it's more about honoring the roots I have, but also expanding the horizons more than anything else. And I can't say enough good things about working with Tom for this, because without him, this wouldn't have ever happened. So it'd just be a bunch of words I'd have in my notebooks.
So now by the time this comes out on the 13th, are all the vinyl opportunities going to be taken up, or are people still going to be able to maybe have one of those after they hear this podcast?
They should be able to. I will finally have hard copies of vinyl, I think sometime in August, and I'm doing a pre-sale at my website. So if people want to hop over there, I'll have still a few available unless something crazy happens. But it's a really expensive product to produce. So
sure.
I was only able to get
but the quality is there.
The quality's there. There's limited copies, but if people really want one, we can probably figure it out, at least initially. If 80,000 people want one, I don't think I'll be able to come up with that supply right away, but maybe down the road.
There we go. Well, I wanted to bring that up again because I think you and me, we talk about our early days and even cassette tapes at times, right? Like that was more of a thing for us with side A and side B than even albums were, but we even remember albums from a kid. There's a definite side B feeling on Late Bloomer when we get to tracks 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I'd say that those tracks are a little bit poppier and the first 5 are a little bit rocker. Is that fair to say, or am I off a little bit on that?
No, I think you're right. I mean, obviously, he kicks off with When You Can't Breathe, which is more of a rocker, but then those last 4 are really kind of breezy pop songs.
Breadcrumbs so everyone will know just how we'll grow.
Yeah, I think it takes a little bit of a different turn there from the first side, and I did spend a lot of time coming up with the track listing and the track order, and because that's always.
I got a question about how we came up with the title when we get a little later on here on side B.
Okay, I was always when we were growing up, like I would love to get a CD or a tape or whatever, and like read all the track listing, like why did they put this song 3rd? Why is this song 8th? I wonder, and like that stuff always appealed to me, so I definitely wanted this collection of songs to tell a story, kind of take the listener on a journey for 45 minutes or however long the record is. I think it's something like that.
Yeah, that's so my question here again is the hardest song for you to write on the album, and I wonder if maybe that was song number 7, because that's pretty clear that that's about your wonderful daughter there. And I also wonder if you don't necessarily want to say it was hard for you to write. Was there a certain moment that it popped into your head, or did you know you were just going to write a song about Luca and then crafted it one day?
I remember prior to making the decision that the song was going to be written, I remember thinking about the song title, Let's Do It Again, and being like, okay, I got to write a song called Let's Do It Again at some point. I don't know when. Because Luca was at that age where she's still kind of at that age where she'll do something fun and want to do it again, and and just want to do it again and again and again. But
it's an instant nostalgia point in the song. It brings you in because you remember yourself as a kid, and then if you yourself have a kid, you're totally put there. So it's instant nostalgia.
Yeah, I agree. The moment that it crystallized for me was when we were out in the backyard during lockdown, and it was June 2020. And the sun was out. Luca was just happy as could be. Had a little inflatable pool back there. She had no real clue what was going on in the world. I mean, she at 4.5, what do they, necessarily know? You want to shield them as much as you can anyway. But she was just loving life back there, screaming out, "Let's do it again." I mean, that really is where I started writing it. I might have even started writing it right there on my phone, just in my notes or something, just a few lines. And then just told Tom, like, hey, this has got to be an upbeat, poppy, whimsy type tune. And he's got a daughter himself, young daughter, so it was pretty easy, I think, for him. I say that because I don't really know for sure. It seems very easy for him, but the way he comes up with melodies and chord progressions and stuff, but it might not have been that easy, but it was pretty easy to write, to be quite honest, the lyrics at least.
Oh, the sidewalk chalk and sunshine is your friend. Let's do it again. Let's do it again.
Was the decision to do the video a difficult one, or did you know right away you were going to do video like that?
Yeah, I had a pretty good idea with that. I mean, like any dad, I was just collecting, and I wasn't collecting the video, 5-6 years ago when she was born and little. I wasn't collecting it thinking I was going to make a music video with the footage. But as she got older, I luckily had a bunch of footage. And then, especially once I knew the song was in the works, I pretty much soon after was like, I'll do a video with this, and it'll be like a homage to Luca growing up. And so I was a little bit more cognizant of some of the footage I would take. Some of it's just, was in the can from years ago, and it just happened to work. And some of it was more specifically shot with that intention in the back of my mind.
Were you giving her stage directions?
No. Yeah, maybe, maybe here and there, maybe a couple of those clips. But there was never like we're making a video, like we're making a music video and do this. It was more just
Look, Daddy needs you to do this.
Right, but I never like told her that I was gonna exploit her in that way. But she's pretty happy now that the video's out. She's pretty excited about the notion that she's on YouTube. It's pretty mind-blowing for her.
The video is very cool, and we will send a link out with the video in the comments up on social media. We'll be directing people there. I want to get into song number 8 and song number 9 a little bit before I let you go here, because I thought song number 8 might possibly have been the time where I was toe tapping the most along there, any other kind of way, which as we talked about on the first side, right? Tracks 4 and 5 can get into what we feel with Love Lost, and track 8 and then 9 are definitely the beginnings of Love, are they not?
Yeah. Any other kind of way. So the main inspiration for that was that documentary that came out, Echo in the Canyon, on Netflix.
Okay, I'm familiar.
Me and Tom both watched it, and we both love that sound, that whole fucking Laurel Canyon sound, that's where the Eagles came out of. And
it's jingly, for sure.
It is, man. He played that 12-string on there that really added to it, gave it a little Birds vibe. And those harmonies.
Ooh, that's what I was hearing. It's the Birds. I was trying to figure out who else I couldn't get there. The Birds. Good call.
Yeah, we love that song. And we tried to have it have a little shade of like the Wonders from That Thing You Do too. And
I didn't want to say that because I was afraid, but that definitely is there. You know what I mean?
No, don't be afraid. We didn't try to completely rip them off.
I don't mean you're ripping them off, but just vibes, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it had the vibe.
I love
too.
that song. Most people love that song because it's inescapable, but
yeah, no, that was big. We wanted that to be as happy and poppy and Beatles, Birds, Eagles, Wonders,
Rembrandts. I got a little Rembrandts vibe, maybe.
Yeah, there's some Rembrandts in there for sure, man.
And then so here's my question. Song 9, French Cafe. Loved the song, really did, right? Like I think it does a great job of capturing, that initial, that first look, right? That first glance. Right. I think it does a great job with that. We all have those moments in our heart we can tap into.
Right.
The decision for the parentheses. Is that basically at some point you say to yourself, all right, I say Inside a Dream so much in this song, I probably should have it in the title? Or was it really a tough process to finally at the end relent and put it there?
You stole my gaze across that French cafe, and now I wonder if you feel the same.
No, it wasn't a to be probably maybe too honest, I really never had a song with parentheses. And I always thought that was cool.
So I dug seeing it on the back album cover, I must admit.
Yeah, I think it makes, and it wasn't, it makes sense too. It wasn't forced. It wasn't let's just do this because we have to do it. It worked perfectly for that song. And I really think that song has a dreamlike vibe, and it's almost like, is this real? Is this a dream? And so like in the song, in the moment, you might think this is really happening. But then if you pull back and you take an overview, you're like, oh wait, that was just a dream, wasn't it? The whole fucking thing. And that's where kind of those things kind of play off each other, where there was really no, I've never been to France, but not yet, but it was more of a trying to capture a scene, like a legitimate scene that is playing out in front of you. Maybe you are a part of it, but in reality, it was probably all just a dream that you witnessed or you slept and saw it that way type of thing. And that, I think, helped just easily make a decision to put the words inside a dream inside a parentheses. So that's kind of how that kind of played out.
Well, I think you definitely bring about a dreamlike state there, and then we finish out with October, which I thought was a phenomenal song. Some great turns of phrases in there, but I thought then that song was a little bit more. We had the initial meeting of somebody, and then we dreamed about what our life could be. But then October is definitely about, okay, we've been together for a little bit while now, and nothing else seems to matter. That line of, was it October or was it the 4th of July, is good stuff.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, we are coming up on the 4th of July. Yeah, you just kind of, it's easy to tap into those emotions, just having been in relationships over the years. And, you know, sometimes when you're in a relationship, it is very all-consuming. And you do forget what day it is, what time it is, what year it is, what month it is, what holiday's coming up. And so we kind of tapped into that whole vibe, and Tom did a really good job of tapping into trying to... He made it very clear that he wanted it to sound like Elliott Smith, that, you know, he passed away. He did a few songs on the Good Will Hunting soundtrack. And he wanted it to be very vulnerable and very real and honest, and he did a great job, you know, kind of capturing that vibe and that emotion throughout the, you know, the music and melody, and he coached me pretty well on how to sing it. And I think it was a good capper for the album for sure.
It's a definite good emotional closing note, I thought. So that is out and available for the people to listen to stream, to come get the physical CD from you, to come order the album if they want to. That's at brettwiscons.com, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And then is there any last thing you want to get out about this late bloomer process? Any last thing you want to say to the people here as we are celebrating? This is a big week for you. This is coming out on album drop day. You're probably busy as all get out right now. We recorded this a few weeks before that, but you're probably busy as all get out now. So any last words you want to get out?
No, I just really hope I put a lot of these songs mean a lot to me. They mean a lot to Tom. We've spent a lot of time and energy and effort and tears, emotion, sweat. I don't think I had any blood involved, but I might have banged into a mic stand or something and cut my shoulder. But
I'm sure you did. I do that on podcasts. Come on, you have to do that doing music.
I poured a lot into it, both personally, spiritually, emotionally, financially, every Ali you can do, and I left it all out on the floor for this record, and I did that for me more than for anybody else, me and Tom, I guess. But I think now that I've had time to process these songs and what we went through to get to where we got, I'm so proud of them, and I know they connect with me and resonate with me, so I just want them to resonate with the listeners out there, and that's what I'm hoping that's what happens.
Well, as somebody who is admittedly a little bit biased here, man, and at the risk of making you audio blush there, I'm super proud of you. I think it definitely comes out how much work you put into it, how much of yourself and soul that you were willing to bear and try to relate to other people. And it's been a rough week. Again, we don't really talk about that on this podcast, but it's been a rough week based on recording, and I just got a sense of hopefulness listening to your album today, and I felt that was pretty cool, and I hope that a lot of other people feel that too.
I do too, man. Hope is it's a beautiful thing.
Well, I guess what? I hope that you will come back on the Morgan Podcast Network sometime and just chop it up with about anything that you want to. Another fun movie, another fun music topic. You'll come back and see us sometime there.
I will be there, brother. Say when.
All right. Just say when. Tombstone. Love it. All right. Late Bloomer, available for you wherever you stream your music, or you can get yourself a physical copy at brettwiscons.com. We'll have some links and stuff available up on the Morgan Facebook page where you can find all of that relevant stuff. We'll do our help to get the word out for our guy. This has been another episode of Let Me Ask You This. Just me, one-on-one with somebody about interesting topics. Who knows when I'll do another one of these when something interesting comes up. But keep listening to the Morgan Podcasting Network. Till next time, that's the Morgan
Joey woke up that morning with no intention of making waves, but the sun was shining on him. He had to stop and shield his face.